Hello and welcome to the preview on the Fulhamish YouTube channel. My name's Elizabeth Barnard and I'll be your host today. Today we're looking forward to Crystal Palace's trip to the Cottage this Saturday. Will our last on Match of the Day Classico be able to end in anything other than a draw? And I'm delighted to say that I'm joined by Dee from the Back of the Nest podcast. Dee, welcome to Fulhamish.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, how are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm feeling. To be fair, it's just the home form for Palace that's got me feeling down. To be about this game, it's weird, but it won't surprise me if Palace turn up. I'm feeling actually kind of excited because we just seem to hate to play at Selhurst Park. Anywhere apart from Selhurst Park, Palace just turn up. So yeah, I'm optimistic.
Yeah, feeling good. I'd love firstly to hear a little bit about your season. So far as a Palace fan. Obviously I've seen a little bit from the outside, but I'd love to know how it's been going, how it's been feeling.
Yeah, it's been up and down. If you sum up the season, overall at the start of the season it was terrible. We didn't win a game for about 9 games or so after we beat Tottenham, and then slowly ever since then we've kind of got into form. We lacked transfers in terms of numbers and right personnel. During the summer, we had, of course, the Euros and Copa America, which impacted us with players coming back very late into pre-season, with even the Olympics with Jean-Philippe Mateta, who's been scoring goals for us so far this season. He came back 3 days before the season started. So it was a chaotic start to the season. There were actually some question marks over whether Glasner will stay at the job or not, because that's how serious it got. However, I've always had faith in him. I think he's the best manager that we could have at Crystal Palace. And as the season's gone on, the only thing that's really been down is our home form. That's the only thing that really hasn't changed. We've only won 2 games at home, which has been a problem. But apart from that, we haven't really lost that many games. We've got some good results in recent times as well. We're doing well in FA Cup. We've got Millwall next, which should be a fantastic game for us. That's at home, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you see it. So yeah, it's been up and down, but we're looking more up rather than down at this current moment of time. However, we need to be getting results and consistent results for us to be looking up, because teams like Fulham, for example, and Brighton and even the Brentfords, it is, there is quality there, and it's hard to I feel like we're just kind of stuck in the bubble. It's hard to try and to catch up to those teams, so it should be a good test for Palace.
Yeah, for sure. I'd love to cast your mind back to the reverse fixture. Only slightly sorry to do it. Fulham won 2-0 that day, but honestly from my perspective it could have been a lot more. We absolutely dominated. But if I'm right, that day you were hit by injuries in quite a major way. Is your squad looking a little more strong coming into this fixture?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that day we had to start Mark Gahey in midfield because we literally had no other midfielders. Justin Devaney, I believe, made his debut there, academy player, and ever since then he's been included in and around the squad as well. That day, and Daichi Kamada got a red card. So a lot of things happened on that day, and I think that game in particular kind of woke us up as well, because ever since we've faced you lot, Daichi Kamada, who's come back from that red card suspension, he's been better. He was, he didn't look like a footballer beforehand, and slowly he's getting his confidence back. And yeah, the injury situation right now, Palace is much better. We've got a healthier squad. I don't think Adam Walton, of course, featured in that game. He was out injured, and he's now available, so that's a plus. And then we've got a few others that's been out for long-term injuries, such as France, who's been in and around the squad. Romain Esse, we signed a player from Millwall. He should be there. Ben Chilwell. So the squad is looking much, much more healthier going into this game than it did in that game. And that game was one to forget. I totally did forget about it until you mentioned it right now.
Yeah, a day to remember for Fulham fans, but obviously the other way around for you guys. And so do you come into this game in quite a strong position in terms of injuries then?
Yeah, I think so. We've got minimal injuries. Decore is out for the season and Chadi Riyad is out for the season. But apart from that, players should be fit. To be fair, we were actually surprised by Adam Walton and Eze not starting against Everton, because we thought there should be 100% fit by then, but they came on at half time. However, if things go well, and so far we haven't heard of any major injury news, they should be fit to start, the likes of Wharton and Eze. And apart from that, we don't really have any other injuries. So the bench is looking stronger. I think the last game against Everton, it was arguably one of our strongest benches we've had since getting promoted to the league about 10 years ago. So there's no complaints on the squad aspects. I think the players are available. It's just about Palace now turning up and getting, trying to get a result. I think it won't be easy because I think you lot have been incredible so far this season, especially with some of your players and your transfer moves. I think you've done very good. But Palace on their day, which seems to happen more away from Selhurst Park, they do have some odd results here and there. We've had some memorable away games so far this season. So yeah, it should be a healthier squad, and hopefully they should be motivated after the Everton defeat as well.
Yeah, for sure. And you've mentioned a little bit about Fulham, but have you caught any of our games this season? What have you made of us so far this season?
Yeah, I think your squad overall, that's been the key aspects. I've watched Fulham games so far this season. I think there was, every team has a few games where maybe you've performed below par, but for the majority of the season, I've been very impressed. And the most impressive thing is the transfer moves. Of course, you got Joachim Andersen from us, Emil Smith-Rowe, and then you got like a few other squad players in and about, like the likes of Reece Nelson or even that Pereira coming off the bench. Mm-hmm. So yeah, and you've got a very solid squad, and you've got a manager who knows the league. He's been managing before, of course, Fulham, and he has managed in the Premier League. And I think the experience in combination with youth players, and you've got experience there. Joachim Andersen is an experienced player. Mm-hmm. Before he joined us, of course, he was at Fulham as well. So I think your squad is, from the outside perspective anyways, balanced. And I think that's the key word. And we haven't had that balance in our squad. I mean, we've been struggling with the left wing-back position for a long time, pretty much a whole season, because we only have one left wing-back, whereas you lot, you signed Sessegnon and you got Robinson, who's a fantastic player, one of the best left backs, if not the best left back in the league. So I think you've got lots of quality there, and I don't think it will be an easy game at all. But the only thing that gives me hope is that normally after defeats, the squad comes back together and they do show up in the next game. But yeah, I've been very impressed by Fulham.
Yeah, you mentioned our squad. It is interesting because we've lost 2 summers ago. We lost Mitrovic. This summer we lost Polinia. So our 2 best, most important players, and we've managed to rebuild with quite smart additions, I think. But it does sometimes with Fulham. It does sometimes feel a little bit like when it rains, it pours. And earlier in the season, we had a bit of an injury crisis. But thankfully, at the moment, things are looking a little more stable, which will obviously mean that Palace will come and beat us 3-0.
Well, I hope so, but I don't see that really happening. I think we have tight games normally. I think last season when we went to Craven Cottage, it was the last-minute equaliser by Jeffrey Schlupp, who's now playing in the Champions League, by the way, against Bayern Munich. So somehow he wasn't getting any game time at Crystal Palace, and he looks much fitter, younger, and is playing in the Champions League against for Celtic. So yeah, I think the squad has changed as well. Even from our last game when we faced you lot, I think the squad is it's completely different because of the injuries. But yeah, it always happens like that. I mean, we had our injury crisis and you lot had yours, and now it seems like both teams are kind of playing with a strong enough team. I guess there isn't much complaints on your side as well.
No, not really. There are a few absentees, a few long-term absentees, like Harry Wilson, who scored at Selhurst Park earlier in the season, is out for at least a few months. And we've got a few. Reece Nelson is out. Kenny Tete's out. But overall, we've got enough cover within the squad to, I think, cover those issues.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, where do you think Palace are going to be able to hurt Fulham? Obviously, it feels to me like every time I see a Crystal Palace win, Mateta's on the score sheet. So I guess he's the player to be most concerned about, maybe. But where else are Palace going to be able to threaten us?
I don't even think it's about particular player. I think Adam Wharton, to be fair, saying that Adam Wharton is another player which I think can hurt Fulham due to his passing ability and how composed he is normally when he's under pressure. And it's been a player that we've missed massively in our midfield. We play with a 2-man midfield, so it has been a struggle for us. But I think where we could hurt you the most is by frustrating you at home. We like to play on a counter-attack. It's not Hodgson-esque counter-attack, especially at Palace. I know Hodgson for you lot was different to how we was at Palace in terms of style of football many years ago. But it's more of like a direct approach counter-attack, and we have got that pace. Ismail Assar, for example, if you let in any spacing behind, he's a very fast, physical player who's got a few goals so far this season as well. So I think it's more about tactics rather than individuals. I know there's a couple individual that I mentioned, like Mateta and Wharton, but it's about us limiting those spaces and hopefully you lot pushing, towards us, sending numbers forward, and then we just try to punch you on the counter attack. That is the reason why Palace have actually been better away from home than at home, because teams at home don't allow us to have those spaces to run into behind. So I think that's the key element to look out for in this game.
Yeah, we've actually found a very similar thing. So when we face teams that have been lower than us in the table, obviously Palace are now, but when we faced even your Ipswiches, your Southamptons of the world, your Manchester Uniteds at home, when they've sat back, we've just been unable to break them down. But we've managed to do the double over Forest and Newcastle this season. So when teams are a little more, expecting to come and get something, then we're able to strike. But a tie against Palace is the kind of tie that does, if I'm honest, worry me quite a lot. But I want to make it a bit more positive, at least from a Fulham perspective. Where are you weak? Like, where are Fulham going to be able to hurt you on Saturday?
That's a very good question. I think right wing back Munoz defensively, he's not the greatest. So I think there's a weakness there, and I'm looking at potentially. I think Iwobi would be starting down your left hand side.
Yeah,
I assume so. I'm looking at that as well as Robinson attacking down the left hand side. So I think that could be a weakness that Fulham can target, because Munoz is much better going forward than he is defensively. And he didn't have the greatest of games against Everton as well. So that's an area to look out for. And I guess on the other side of the pitch, I think it comes down to wing-backs really for Palace. Left wing-back, we've had the opposite of Munoz, where Mitchell is good defensively. However, he had one of the worst halves of football that I saw against Everton in the previous game, which I guess could be a positive for you lot. And we'll see if he starts in this game, because Ben Chilwell could potentially start. But yeah, he's been very good overall defensively. However, going forward, he's limited. So the wing-back positions, we rely on them heavily because of the system that we play. We're three at the back. But in certain games, if they do switch off, then it could be a struggle for Palace to create chances as well as defensively as well, because we just rely on them massively.
Yeah. I'm hopeful our left-hand side will be able to capitalise on that in that case, because that's definitely, at least from my perspective, where we're the most threatening, with Anthony Robinson and Iwobi. Yeah. Finally, it would be amazing to get a score prediction from you for the game. What are you thinking?
Score prediction is so hard. I genuinely don't know how to approach this one. It's like Palace. I could see us getting a result due to the fact that we haven't really conceded that many goals away from home. I can give you some of the results, but we faced Doncaster Rovers away from home 2-0, which, I mean, that's not a surprise. United away from home 2-0. West Ham away from home 2-0. Leicester away from home 2-0. And our previous away game before that was Boxing Day against Bournemouth, which was a 0-0. So we haven't conceded away from home in quite a while. The last time we conceded away from home was against Brighton, which was 3-1. And the last time we lost away from home, which is a very good question that I don't even know about, which I'm scrolling through the results, was actually Nottingham Forest back in October. I don't know if I missed a result.
That's a crazy run.
Yeah. Away from home, Palace are a European side. At home, we're fighting to stay in the Premier League. It's two different sides. So based on the previous results of 2-0, I have to stick with the 2-0, because I think the last 5 games has been 2-0 to Palace away from home. So let's see. I mean, the run has to end at some point, I guess. That's the positive for Fulham. Yeah. But yeah, even I didn't realise that we haven't lost since October away from home, which was against Forest. And yeah, so 2-0 Palace. I'm going to stick with that. Yeah,
I think I'm going to go for a draw, like it is Fulham Palace at Craven Cottage. I have to. Yeah. I think 2-2 might be a bit high. I think 0-0's a bit low, so I'm going to go 1-1.
I can see that happening as well.
Yeah.
I think our previous result was 1-1, right? At
Yeah,
Cottage.
it was.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Schlupp banger. I was
Yeah,
sat just behind the goal it was scored into that day, and
Yeah, and we went great in that game as well. I think Jeffrey Schlupp just came off the bench and then you just slotted one in.
Yeah.
But I'll take the draw. I'll take the draw. For me, it's not even about this game. Look, from a Palace perspective, we can't lose this game realistically, because if we do lose this game, then the point gap between us two is 12 points. And then if we do win, that's 6 points. So the swing in this one is kind of big. So a draw wouldn't be the worst result in the world, but I think we just can't lose. But let's see what happens.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you so much for speaking to me, Dee. Dan and Yaz will be back on the Fulhamish YouTube channel in a couple of days doing the quick take post Palace. But for now, all I want to say is thank you so much for watching.